Welcome to the True North Fantasy Football Podcast.
What up, fantasy people? Welcome back to the True North Fantasy Pod. Trav here. I am jamming in Dirty Laundry Studios as always, and I have my co-host Tyrell McLaughlin with me. Ty, how you living, brother?
Doing good, doing good. Got my haircut today. I just go in, ask for the same thing since grade 7. Give me the old Caesar, please. And they still know what I'm talking about. They still know what I'm talking about.
Awesome. That's awesome. I don't see the rock hard gel and the ski slope in the front though, so it's not really authentic Caesar to me. Actually,
it's like the West Coast offense. Like it's really evolved since the 90s.
Yeah. We just got to get used to what the new Caesar is. I get that. I like that. So you can find Ty, anybody listening, you can find him on Twitter, dropping killer stats at TNFF Tyrell. You can find me at TSeal14 and all the crew's work at TrueNorthFFB.com. I do, before we bring in our amazing guest tonight, I do want to give some love to our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. They are the fastest growing DFS platform on the planet. You can get in there. You can throw down on some player props. I know that the playoff football is over, but there is all sorts of sports on there. Basketball, baseball coming up. They got hockey. They got UFC, golf. There's player props for absolutely everything on Monkey Knife Fight. So get in there, sign up, use our promo code TNFF at your first deposit, and you will get an instant match of up to $50. That is 50 bones. I got some pretty good feedback last week on calling it 50 bones from our buddy Drew Osenchuk at DF Bean Counter, I believe it is. He said that it was ultra Canadian that I called it 50 bones. So if you if you make your first deposit and use our promo code, you get 50 bones extra from Monkey Knife Fight. So thanks to them. That promo code again is TNFF. And now I am going to get into our guests this evening. They are really good friends, a part of the Undroppables. We love that entire crew over there. So go check out their work, of course. This is 2/3 of the crew from the Unscripted Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Undroppables network, of course. And I'm going to start just below me on the screen there. We got my man Randall Kennedy. You can find him at FF_Terminator. He's actually a co-founder of the Undroppables as well, alongside our buddy Chalk and another part of that amazing crew at the Unscripted Pod. Term, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just along for the ride. I don't know why they like me.
Yeah, he's just here so he doesn't
the Charlie Murphy gift. That's why.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here, buddy. I know for both of you, it is a little bit later in the evening, so I appreciate you guys staying up and hanging out with us West Coasters. We
appreciate you having us. We are very thankful.
Absolutely, man. And then just to his on-screen right is my man Jake Beesong, better known as Beezy. You can find him at Beezy BFF. Another OG from the Undroppables, rocking out on the Unscripted. We talked before the show, and he is the one who brings the sex appeal to the Unscripted podcast.
Clearly.
And also a co-founder of our friends over at the Dynasty Sons as well. So I wanted to make sure I gave them some love with our homies D Brown, brother Matt, and then Linda's in there as well. Beezy, how are you doing this evening, man? I'm so glad you made it tonight.
Oh, dude, I'm good. I'm a little. I got to take a shower, so that was nice. I don't smell like grease and chicken wings and have sauce all over me. So we're doing good in that aspect.
Not yet,
things, man. But
the night is young.
I got some wings in the fridge, just chilling, waiting to get it off this thing right here and go. Now I'm down.
Ooh.
Yeah, I get them.
If they're not Parmesan garlic, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, dude, it's a spicy garlic and a mixture of Parmesan garlic together, like a combo.
Oh my goodness!
I'll allow it.
Yeah, we're talking mind blowing.
You're damn right. You're going to allow that term. Right on, fellas. So yeah, we're gonna get in here. We're gonna talk some landing spots tonight. We're gonna talk a little bit of free agents, so maybe a little bit under the radar guys. We originally actually, you know what? I need to give a shout out to our man Paulie. He is the third member of the Unscripted Podcast before we fly into her here. And he actually wasn't able to make it tonight. He wasn't feeling that great. So what's up, Uncle Paulie? We love you and we'll get you next time. I was a little bit sad that we were going to miss you hacking darts and breaking hearts on the stream tonight, but there will be a next time, buddy. So I hope you're watching it and we'll get it. We'll get another date set here. Yeah, I'm rambling a lot, boys. We ready?
Yeah. Oh, but real quick too, I haven't had a chance to see you boys in a little bit since the fantasy season finished, but I've been thinking about changing my to Slayer of Canadians because man, I just tore you boys up this year. I had to get it in.
Got a couple W's. Yeah, that's fair. You deserve that.
I had to get it in because the gong was mine, and I also got your listener league down pat. So I had to come in and talk. I had to come in and talk a little bit of shit. I did.
Me and D Brown were talking shit on the spot mid-season about the Gong Show. Yeah, and Beezy's like, "Hey, fuck y'all." Yeah,
you're like, "Oh, we're definitely gonna be in the championship." I'm like, "Yeah, you keep talking your shit. We'll see what happens."
You let Beezy in your listener league?
Oh, he did. And I just
talk about a fox in the hen house.
Yeah.
there was some other foxes in there for sure.
Oh yeah, dude. It was a super fun league.
I'm not talking any shit because I didn't even stand a chance from the jump in that league. So
oh dude, that was such a fun league too, man. That was definitely one of my favorites this year.
Yeah, there was some good chirping for the inaugural season went off really nicely. So it's going to be fun to have another one next year. And you better put your name in that hat, buddy.
Well, you would assume the champ would come back for a repeat, right? Like,
that's true.
Unless you're scared. If you're scared, I don't blame you, dude. Like, I don't know. It's totally up to you. But
okay, let's get into it.
Some shit talking going on.
No doubt. We're like 7 minutes into the show here. My pride's just out the fucking door here.
Let's go, baby. All right.
Okay. So, like I said, we're going to talk some under the radar free agents in a couple minutes, and Ty's going to run us through that. But first, we are going to get to these landing spots. And I wanted to take a bit of a different approach because we weren't necessarily going to be matching players to landing spots. I was more curious about your guys' thoughts on the situations across the league. So, whoever the player is that comes into these situations, I want to know what you guys think about them. And I want to know what some of your favorite spots are for each position. So we are going to bypass the tight end position. You fellas may have noticed on the show sheet. I think the reason for that is just there is always a ton of turnover. Yeah, that's right. Unscripted, no show sheet. Never mind. Forget that I said that. That was a mirage. There's just always a ton of turnover at the tight end position. There's not a whole ton of free agents. Obviously, we got Kyle Pitts. We got Kyle Pitts on the draft board, and it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. But we're going to start with the wide receiver position tonight, gentlemen. And we have some awesome free agents in this class, which is great. And there is a really nice rookie crop coming in. Some of the teams that we're seeing as likely to add a wide receiver are the Dolphins, Jets, Patriots, Texans, Colts, Giants, Eagles, Bears, Lions, Packers. Pretty much most teams will add some form of wide receiver to the room, just at varying levels on the target totem pole, I guess. But what I want to talk to you guys about is some of your favorite situations out of those. So you can choose from the list I just gave, or you can go off that board. But Term, I want to start with you. What's a landing spot for a wide receiver that you are particularly intrigued by?
The Jets. Be interesting to see what they do there. Of course, they hired the 49ers former defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, and he brought with him Mike LaFleur, who had been our passing game coordinator for the past few years. Very competent. Obviously, his brother is coach of the Green Bay Packers. He and Kyle Shanahan and those guys have been friends for a while. It'll be they sort of teach similar things, and it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I'm really high on to see what Mims can do in his second season, see if maybe he can stay healthy. Of course, there are a lot of questions surrounding the Jets. What are they going to do for a quarterback? Are they going to give Sam Darnold one more run, which I think they should, just to see what he can do with some competent coaching. And if they elect to go with another quarterback, and are they going to draft one? They're going to sign a free agent. So there's lots of things up in the air there. But I think that team's going to be a lot better than they were last year, just based on effort and scheme and things that the new coaching staff is going to bring.
Yeah, the Saleh effect is going to be an interesting one to watch for sure, because that guy has a ton of energy, and we definitely like. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love watching that guy, even on the sidelines when he's getting riled up. Like, that's the kind of coach I'm down to play for sure. I think the Jets are definitely an interesting landing spot. A lot to shake out, like you said, but we like the insertion of Mike LaFleur there, part of the Shanahan coaching tree, which is has been very good for fantasy in the past. So very nice choice on the Jets. I think they're a good landing spot for a lot of positions, to be honest with you, and I'm buying Jets for sure. Beezy, what about you? What's a team that you think will add a wide receiver that you're interested in keeping an eye on as we go through the offseason?
For me, it's going to be the Miami Dolphins. This team is really set up here under Brian Flores to take another step. They've got the off. I think they have a great quarterback in Tua. I think that he's being slept on big time this year. A lot of people are, what I'm saying? A lot of people are putting him down, and it's like, you got to understand, this kid came off a major hip injury that was, equivalent to being in a serious car crash. Mm-hmm. And you're also going through a year where we had COVID to deal with and all these other things they had to deal with. This kid's going to get another shot to be the starter this year. I can guarantee it. They need to add some weapons around him. Adding a receiver like Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay would be massive for this kid and his development moving forward. And also just for some of their other weapons as a team, as a whole. They have some guys that can be productive, but they're not necessarily like, they need to have an alpha out there for them to be able to work against the 2s and the 3s to produce better numbers. So I think Miami is a big time place for a wide receiver 1 to go to.
Yeah, I like that. And go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say Devontae Parker lining up across from those 2s instead of across from those number 1 cornerbacks.
Huge.
Just would elevate that passing game to a whole nother level.
Yes, sir.
That's exactly what I was just going to come in and say. If you push Devontae down to the 2 spot, he's going to light it up. And I like that with Gesicki playing a lot out of the slot too, Beezy. I like that. And what you're saying about Tua is very true. Like, people are talking about them drafting a quarterback this year and just basically Josh Rosening him. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think they need to build around the guy. So I love that.
Word.
And just to throw in kind of process kind of stuff at this point, like what I kind of like to do right around this point of the offseason after the Super Bowl, is look at these team needs and kind of get a grip on how a team might navigate the offseason. And when I look at positions like a wide receiver needy team, I kind of like to tier them out. So I like those examples because the Jets and, those teams definitely fall into the bucket where, a team is likely to be able to facilitate the contract that comes with like a big wide receiver ad. Because this year, I think, you have the Ravens, you have Washington, the Jaguars, Dolphins, and the Jets. Those are squads with lots of cap space and a need at wide receiver. And you got the Patriots, you got Paulie's Colts, who is in here. Another wide receiver needy team who has money to spend. Same with the Patriots. Maybe less attractive spots for fantasy as we sit right now. And I think there's some sneaky teams like the Cardinals, the pass-heavy AJ Green losing Bengals. But what I'm getting at, boys, is that's pretty much all the teams that I just named right there who are going to be able to afford one of those higher-end wide receivers who might hit the market. Like, they're the only ones who can really get in a bidding war for the likes of an Allen Robinson or even Juju Smith-Schuster or Will Fuller, in my opinion.
Yep.
Because that's kind of what stands out with these wide receivers that we're talking about is that most of the popular wide receiver landing spots are some wide receiver needy teams. They're really up against the cap. Like your Eagles, Trav, they're one of those teams. The Texans, the back-to-back NFC runner-ups, the Packers are one of those teams. So, they're going to be more compelled to kind of add through the draft, except Houston, of course, who doesn't draft till the 3rd round right now. But and just to wrap that idea up, and I'll shut up, but lots of teams have kind of hit that cap wall we never thought would come. You know what I mean? Like, we know how ductile the salary cap is. It's kind of a joke. But that's because teams have been able to just push money down the road year after year after year. So when something like COVID hits, and the cap shrinks unexpectedly over one single calendar year, it's going to say that. Yeah, and some other teams like the Dolphins that you mentioned are going to have an advantage because they have cap space, or the Jaguars, for example. So I'm really excited because it might also propel, like, there's going to be some good players hitting the market, first of all, but we also might see some of these blockbuster trades that we've become, that we've really been treated to over the last couple off seasons. So it's going to be an exciting off season for sure.
I agree.
I wouldn't mind posing to the group. What do you guys think about that polarizing question? Like, do you guys worry about a wide receiver who changes teams for fantasy?
It depends.
Yes. Go ahead, Term. And I think I used to actually be worried about this until I spoke to that guy that's right next to me on the screen, because last year he pointed out a man named Stephon Diggs. And you all know what happened with Stephon Diggs. And I mean, I had him in the Gong Show, and I held on to him because of that man right there. I was actually going to deal him, but go ahead, Term. Lay it out.
Yeah, man, it just depends on the situation that he's going to, the type of team structure they have, the offense, the type of player it is. With a guy like Stephon Diggs, tremendous route runner, best route runner in the league, tremendous talent, the desire to be great. That team, you could tell that's really the missing. He was like the missing link. He and Josh Allen, you just knew they were going to be. Well, I just knew they were going to be good together. Supreme deep threat, and so it really just depends. What kind of opportunity is there? What kind of receivers are already there? And what kind of player you're getting. Someone like Antonio Brown, I worry about. Someone like Stephon Diggs, I wasn't worried about at all. I don't think Antonio Brown would have worked out in Buffalo, just like he didn't work out in L.A. or Las Vegas with the Raiders. It's just a case-by-case basis. I don't think you can throw a wet blanket over it and say, oh, wide receiver on a new team, stay away.
Totally. And it is a question without a right answer for sure. I love it.
I'm interested to see what the Lions do. They currently have Quintez Cephas as the only that. I mean, that's it. They don't have anyone on their wide receiver roster, and they just turned over their quarterback. So, be interesting to see what they do. At first, I thought Jared Goff might be a trade candidate again before the season. But finding a second team willing to take that contract would be quite an achievement. So I'm not so sure that happens, but they need some pass catchers.
Well, and I think with Goff coming in, like, I think we might just have to change the profile of receiver we want from the Detroit Lions, right? Like, historically, we've wanted Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, those downfield red zone guys. With Goff, I think we're probably wanting to target that guy who is the short target yards after the catch guy.
The Danny Amendola.
Yeah, like if they bring like a Danny, like I would hope they would bring in somebody a tier above Danny Amendola if they really want to surround Jared Goff with some pieces that can help
like a Jameis Crowder.
But exactly what you're saying. That slot
or I think,
yeah,
and I think there's an alternative. Like if Goff was to alter his tendencies a little bit, like obviously he hasn't thrown very much to the tight end position or the running back position in his career.
He has to now.
Yeah, exactly. Those are his two best weapons now.
Yeah.
And
I think that whole offense is just, well, I mean, obviously they're going to be different. They're going to bite your knees off and whatever else it is that my guy said. But I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I think they're just going to ask Goff to manage games. I don't think they're going to ask him to win anything for them. But they need some pass catchers there, and if Cephas is their guy, man, I've got that guy stashed on so many dynasty teams.
Yes.
If they don't add, they've got to add something to the position, but if they don't add anything of note to the position, he could be a big time sleeper.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I would definitely put some feelers out for Quintez Cephas. If you can net him for like a third, I would definitely do that. Second, maybe, but I like that. One other spot too, Ty, that you mentioned real quick that I really like before we move into the next position was the Arizona Cardinals. I think that could be a really intriguing spot for somebody like another guy like Juju. I'm just kind of loving thinking about where Juju's going to go for some reason this offseason. But I think if they inserted somebody to not have to have Christian Kirk as the wide receiver too, they passed the ball just under 600 times last year, and Larry Fitzgerald is out the door. So I think there is some room for somebody else with all those four wide receiver sets. And I think, that guy could benefit off some efficiency. Like, I don't think he's going to be a 150 target guy in the Cardinals offense with DeAndre Hopkins there, but I think that could be a pretty efficient, like 100 target player coming in to the Cardinals, if so.
Yeah, I still like Christian Kirk quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Do they put him in the slot role that Fitzgerald has kind of anchored down the last couple of years? Is he done? Has he announced his retirement?
He hasn't announced it officially yet.
No, hey, I thought he mentioned that he was. But yeah, I'll take a dig into that real quick while we're chit-chatting, boys.
I have dropped him just about every league that I had him in. Just basically, if he doesn't retire, I don't think that there's just the tread's all off that tire.
He's already died on your roster if you haven't noticed it yet.
Yeah, he's basically just clogging a spot right now on not just for your roster but the Cardinals roster.
Mm-hmm. On fantasy rosters where you could have somebody like Quintez Cephas taking up that roster spot instead. So I like that. All right, fellas, we're going to move into the running back position. Personally, this is the sexiest position in fantasy football for me. I know there's a lot of talk about whether they matter in real life, of course, but there's a lot of teams that could be looking. Term, you mentioned the Jets for a wide receiver earlier. The Jets are definitely going to be in the running back market. We got Ty's Steelers. The Falcons are going to be looking. The Cardinals, like we just talked about, are going to probably look to add as well. Yeah, Ty's waving his terrible towel up there. Term, your Niners are always a wild card for the running back position to bring in somebody that's lesser known that smashes. So look for the third guy on the depth chart for the Niners as like a deep stash. And then you got the Seahawks and the Dolphins who could be looking to add as well, depending on situations. Bees, we're starting with you. What's your favorite landing spot for a running back among the fantasy landscape so far?
Again, man, I think you kind of have to look at the Dolphins. I mean, when you like I said, we were talking about Tua, we were talking about his development. Like, get this guy the weapons all over the field. Get him a running back that can carry the ball. Get him the running back that can be a nice safety valve for him. And, just give this kid the opportunity to show what he has with, standout weapons. And I think that they could obviously they could draft, but I think for where this team was a playoff team last year with Ryan Fitzpatrick under center. They're not that far off. So, they hit a couple of those, trenches picks with those top picks that they have, get their offensive line shored up and, get a running back through free agent. I mean, maybe you look at Aaron Jones if you don't sign a big wide receiver and see if you could spot him right next to Tua. And, not
a Myles Gaskin fan. Easy.
I think Myles Gaskin can be I think he's a good running back. Do I think he's going to be like their future? I don't. I think he is more of I think he could be an awesome complementary piece for another running back in that kind of a role. Like a third down type back as well. He seemed like he was pretty efficient out of the backfield catching the ball. And, he's definitely surprised me, shout out to 2-on-1 Tommy for, for talking about him last year
back.
In the Gong Show. That was me and Tommy. I traded Le'Veon Bell and Myles Gaskin for David Montgomery and Sony Michel. It's like our first trade we've ever did together. And he was like, so, it was a funny one way back when, but, yeah, like I said, I like the kid, but I just don't think he's, that full-time start. I think they need somebody like an Aaron Jones or somebody to really just take that, take the wheels off that offense.
Mm-hmm. I think what they showed with Gaskin is that they're willing to give a large piece of the pie to somebody. I'm with you in that camp, though, that I don't necessarily think Gaskin's it. And I don't necessarily think that 100% they will give somebody a huge piece of the pie like that. I just think that if they rely on somebody, maybe a hot hand, that they might end up doing that. And I think if they bring a more talented, Gaskin's talented, but if they bring in, somebody who has a little more pedigree and maybe can get a little bit more done, then I think that guy could get a lot of work in fantasy for sure.
Yep.
Could take the pressure off Tua a bit too. I like what you did there. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Set this kid up for success.
Okay, Term. What's your favorite running back landing spot?
I don't know if it's my favorite running back landing spot, but I'm really, really interested to see what the Steelers do this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
They elected not to bring back Randy Finkner, and they promoted Matt Canada, who they hired from who they hired from the University of Maryland. If you remember, he was the University of Maryland interim head coach when who was their running back?
Was it McFarland?
Anthony McFarland Jr.
Yeah. Little Tomlin was on the team.
He's known for his creativity. He's known for his wrinkles. You saw a lot of that early on in the season when they were rolling, and then it kind of faded out and became the Finkner throw show. So I think this offense is going to be completely different than it was this past year. I don't think they're going to throw nearly as much as they did. They're going to have to establish some semblance of a running game, and that's going to be, they're going to need to upgrade the offensive line, which has gotten really long in the tooth. They've got some really good players who used to be really good players, but not so much anymore. But there's a lot of opportunity here. I don't think James Conner's coming back. If they bring in somebody and how much of a role does Anthony McFarland play? That kind of thing. So I got my eye on Pittsburgh.
Nice. Ty, I'm going to let you and Beezy dive right into that one as our resident Steelers fans on the show, just because I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about the running back position and that offense moving forward.
Go ahead, Ty. You go first.
Well, it's quietly been one of the most putrid run games for 3 years straight. We're the only team in football who's under 1,500 yards rushing as a team in back-to-back-to-back years. So, there has to be something done. And as Ben gets older, we assumed, Trav last offseason, I was saying there's no way they come anywhere close to the 2018 passing totals. Not even close. And then, sure enough, they threw 650 fucking times this year. So it really took me back, and it was just like you alluded to, they were running a lot of this these creative run schemes early in the season and really went away from it and kind of transferred some of that work to the wide receivers on screens and short passing and stuff like that. There's no doubt they were using the wide receivers as an extension of that running game, but I just kind of go back to what does this offense look like, and will it work with Ben Roethlisberger? Is Ben going to be the quarterback, and will this Matt Canada offense work because it's so predicated on play action? That's how we get our chunk plays in this offense from the passing game. And Ben Roethlisberger has been unbelievably mind-bogglingly bad on play action, or at least they've used so unbelievably little of it over the last couple of years. It's shocking. So I really, it remains to be seen, but I think it's getting back to the main point of this episode. I think running back is a good landing spot, and putting a good running back in place is more important for the Steelers than it is for a lot of other teams. And I think the Steelers are a team I expect to add, whether it's in free agency or even in the first or second round of the NFL draft.
Is Ben Roethlisberger that mind-numbingly bad, or are the defenses just not buying it?
Yeah, we're both, right? No doubt. Yeah. And that's what's got to change, or else there's going to be 8 to 9 guys in the box every time they run any play anyways. Yeah.
No, I have to agree with you, man. I mean, watching that run game last year was just, it hurt. And, and the fact that they really didn't give McFarland much of a run either, I get it. He was a rookie, and they, whatever their reasoning was, it kind of blew my mind, because this kid's got some speed. It was something that was missing from this offense, something fierce to get to that second level, to make defenses kind of sit back on their heels a little bit instead of Benny Snell and James Conner just grinding through the tackles. But, do I think Anthony McFarland could be the feature back in 21? I don't. I think he's a great complementary piece. Kind of think of him as like a Willie Parker, and now they're looking for their Jerome Bettis. And, getting a guy like Javonte Williams would just be...
Yeah, if Javonte Williams, if he goes to Pittsburgh, I'll cry.
Oh,
because I want him to go somewhere good. I don't want him slogging through the damn AFC North.
No, that's true.
I want him to go somewhere where I can see him turn on the friggin' Jets.
Good point.
No
offense
to
you guys, but I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the McFarland thing really was mystifying. You finally post Le'Veon Bell, post Willie Parker, post, I could go down the list, Mendenhall, whatever. They finally add a complimentary back, a guy who complements someone like Benny Snell who was in there. And then you just don't use that explosive element to your run game. It just, it blows my mind. And it worries me that Tomlin really is I want one guy in there who can do everything. It really scares me.
Yeah,
Snell is such a plotter. I'm gonna
Benny Snail.
Totally.
Benny Snail. I'm going to touch on the 49ers. They re-signed Jeff Wilson Jr. and Mostert will be back. A lot of people are saying watch Aaron Jones to the Niners, but I'll tell you a move that those guys would make that's a lot more savvy than that, and that's Aaron Jones' backfield mate.
Oh, Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams fits what the 49ers do perfectly. I mean, he catches the ball out of the backfield as well as any back in the league. I'm really got my eye on where that guy goes because there's fantasy production there. Like if he goes somewhere where he gets a legit half stake, that's going to be a gold mine there on your bench, especially PPR leagues.
I think he could re-sign with Green Bay, to be honest with you. If Aaron Jones takes off, I think Green Bay would have to make it a priority to get him back in because not only is he a good pass catcher, but he's also a fantastic pass blocker. And that is something that Aaron Rodgers trusts. And, that's how they kind of work their team. So, if you do believe in
they're not going to pay Aaron Jones.
They're not going to pay Aaron Jones. They're going to go with
AJ Dillon.
There we go. I don't know why I was drawing a blank, but they're going to go with the Mr. Big Legs. Jamal Williams would be the perfect complement to him as a third down back.
He'd get so much pass catching in that scenario.
Oh yeah,
I'll take Williams is better than Dillon.
I'm not mad at that, dude. To be honest with you,
We're clearly thought so last year, so I don't see why that. Yeah, why that's such a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not an AJ Dillon. I'm just not an AJ Dillon fan. He looks like 3 yards in a cloud of dust to me. Dude has no wiggle, no hip moving at all. It's just like I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but he just does not look the part to me.
Yep, I agree, man. I've been kind of on that same train.
Yeah, it's definitely a different style of running back than we're used to for them. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, I was just gonna say I'm happy with the running back class. There is some names out there, and I think there's some landing spots out there, which is super refreshing. You hear the expression "teams can't lie to us" in free agency and the draft. I think those are definitely linked statements. If a team like Atlanta doesn't add much in free agency, they're going to be very likely to add in the draft, and that running back's going to be very likely to have draft capital. But yeah, just getting I really think there is a lot more running back landing spots after just the last couple of years. It feels like we've been trying so hard to find landing spots for talented running backs.
What is Atlanta going to do this year? I mean, what
they're screwed on the cap.
They're sort of like in purgatory, right?
Yeah.
They have all these old guys, but they don't have a good enough team to go for it, and they're stuck in the division with Tom Brady and the Saints.
Yeah, they're that dynasty team who just stays in the middle and just doesn't decide to go for a contendership or to rebuild. It's like one of those dynasty teams stuck in the middle is what I feel like it is.
I think they're spinning their wheels and they're just staving off the inevitable, and they should just go ahead and strip it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They can't win.
I think Matt Ryan and Julio Jones' contracts are telling them something different, though.
Well, that's my point. This year, they're just kind of along for the ride. Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot, the new GM, their beds have been made, unfortunately. They have $113 million invested on that offense. So their only choice is to try and be a powerhouse offense. I think by bringing in Arthur Smith, they're trying to recapture that 2016 magic they had with Shanahan, get all that play action going. But I definitely agree that next offseason, I'll be ringing that bell pretty hard about Matt Ryan. If they drafted a quarterback this year, I think that's a great play because they need to prepare for life after Matt Ryan.
I think they should draft a quarterback this year, and I think they should trade Matt Ryan if they could.
Yeah,
while they can. And I'd
good point.
I'd do the same thing with Julio Jones. I'd be like, listen, we love you. I mean, we're going to try and find you somewhere that you can go win. Yep, because it's not going to be here.
49ers sounds pretty good. Shanahan reunion. Let's go.
Bring it
on.
Oh, that would be a
bring it on.
Be...
Of course,
I think Julio can get kicked
Julio.
into the slot eventually too. He might go Larry Fitzgerald at the end of his career. I know it's going to be harder for Julio, who has played through a lot of injuries, to actually play through those injuries in the future as he gets older. But I also think that he does. I think it might get overblown about his career, whereas Matt Ryan, I could see the end coming already. Whereas Julio, if he slides into the slot and has a Larry Fitzgerald 2 or 3 years in the slot, I think there is a range of outcomes where that happens.
The 49ers just have so many question marks, man. We have so many unrestricted free agents.
Quarterback number one.
Questions surrounding not even just Jimmy G. What are they going to do behind Jimmy G? Because Mullens is a restricted free agent, and CJ Beathard is an unrestricted free agent. So
they did just sign Rosen to a 1-year deal, buddy.
Yes, they got Rosen, but that's a developmental thing.
Sure. But it's also been the secret code. You sign Rosen and your team miraculously is gifted a franchise quarterback, Arizona. It's an exact science.
Big facts.
Yeah. I think San Fran should trade Garoppolo, second, third, whatever you can get for him, and then go get a quarterback. If you get a quarterback first.
The problem is that he's not commanding anything on the open market because teams know that they'll just cut him.
Exactly.
And they can get him for nothing.
So would you be in favor of a Sam Darnold? Do you think like Sam Darnold would be an upgrade on Jimmy G, or do you think that's a lateral move?
Honestly, at this point, it seems sort of lateral, and I'm not sure that as big a Sam Darnold fan as I am, and I love the kid. I don't think he is the quarterback that's going to get you back to the Super Bowl. If you want to go back to the Super Bowl, you might as well stick it out with Jimmy G. But in order for him to be successful, you're going to have to put some more pieces around him. Like I said, we have upwards of 20 players that are unrestricted free agents, and I'm talking starters. Every cornerback on the roster, including Jaquiski Tart, our starting safety. We've turned over the defense. We've got a new defensive coordinator. We've got a new offensive coordinator. There's a lot of question marks surrounding San Francisco. And no matter who the quarterback is, unless they trade for Deshaun Watson, which I don't see them doing, they got the fourth best quarterback in the division.
Mm-hmm.
Right off the bat. So it's going to be tough for them to get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, those are all fantastic points about the Niners. Luckily for all of that, they can lean on that run game, hopefully, to insulate some of that grace period for getting accommodated to all those changes that are happening. So, guys, I'm going to keep us rolling along here. This is going to be a very exciting offseason for the quarterback position. The carousel that we're about to see is going to be an extremely fun watch, guys. We obviously already saw Stafford and Goff switch teams, so LA and Detroit are off the table, I guess. Term, what up?
No, I just want to go first.
Okay, you want it? Noted, my man. Unscripted is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got lots of teams looking for quarterbacks, obviously. There's some out there, namely one whose last name is Wentz on my birds is one who's getting a lot of buzz right now, but lots of other moving pieces out there. Teams that are looking are the Colts. They had Phillip Rivers retire, the Bears, the Trubisky experiment. They're itching to end that. The old football team up in Washington's obviously looking for something long-term. The Steelers could be looking for a successor. Broncos, Panthers, Jets, and Niners, like you said. So Term, since you wanted to kick it off, what quarterback landing spot do you think is the one that is going to get you the most hyped?
Okay, I'm going to pick the low-hanging fruit here, and I got my eye on the Eagles, right? And I've had my eye on the Eagles for a while here, and I thought, they can't get Frank right. They fired Doug Peterson, so Carson Wentz clearly won the power struggle, right? And then they hired maybe. I mean, you're putting the cart before the horse. So,
Sorry.
But they hired Nick Sirianni, and I'm like, okay, this is a Carson Wentz move. And then they hired Shane Steichen, who was one of the most gifted young play callers in the league. You saw what he did with Justin Herbert in Los Angeles. I really like him, and I'm thinking this is a downfield. This is a Carson Wentz big arm. Red Rifle 2 move. And then Kevin Paluto comes on board, who has a huge RPO background and brings heavy influence from college. And I'm like, okay, that's a Jalen Hurts move. And then they hire Brian Johnson to come in and be the quarterback's coach, who's known Jalen Hurts since he was 4 years old, who recruited Jalen Hurts to Mississippi State, who worked with Dak Prescott his final 2 years at Mississippi State and got him drafted in the 4th round. and you think, okay, so that's a Jalen Hurts move. So what the hell are the Eagles doing? Do they know? I think their plan is to go with Wentz, but they want Jalen Hurts to be coached to the point where if it doesn't work with Carson Wentz, they can pull the plug and put this kid in there, because I don't think they're convinced he can be their franchise quarterback after just 3.5 games. I don't think they saw enough. I certainly didn't see enough, and I'm not a paid NFL executive. So I don't think they saw enough, and I think they're trying to prepare themselves for life after Wentz while clinging to the idea that Carson is still their guy. And if someone in that time frame comes along and sweeps them off their feet and says, here's 2 number 1 picks and a starter and a 3rd rounder, and they're going to say, all right, Carson, it's been nice. But I don't think they're going to get that. And they realistically don't think they're going to get that either. So I still think Carson Wentz is going to be your day 1 starter for the Eagles at this point. But after that, it's going to get interesting.
Yeah, I think like everything you said is exactly how I've been seeing it. I don't think they realistically want to get rid of Carson Wentz. Obviously, the Frank Reich and the Shane Steichen moves coming in are awesome for him. And that contract obviously is going to be a pain in the ass. But they like how he has to listen to calls with all of the turmoil that's been happening around Carson Wentz for the last year. He has to listen to the calls that are coming in.
Got to take the call.
And yeah, exactly. And I'm also not sold on Jalen Hurts. I still love Carson Wentz, and I still think he can be a good quarterback, and I would love to see him resurrect his career as an Eagle, because I think he did a lot there in those first couple seasons. And I think a couple of his seasons where people have been calling them bad seasons, aside from last year, weren't necessarily all that bad when you consider everything that was around him. So I still want him to be there, and I want him to be the guy. I think what the move could be, and you're definitely sacrificing some youth, this probably won't happen, but I think the move could be to beef up Jalen Hurts with those coaching hires, like you said, Term. If he does get some spotty play and flashes, maybe he gets you those 2 first-round picks from somebody if he looks that good in any sort of period of time. But I think what might have to happen there is Carson Wentz would probably have to shit the bed, so that's a little bit of a tough spot. Because Jalen Hurts ideally isn't playing very much because Carson Wentz is playing well. So it's been an interesting watch. I think Howie got off pretty scot-free in all of this.
So is Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is getting off pretty scot-free in this conversation, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, if they're trying to shop him.
Well, he's just like, if he's gonna, I just think you're so beholden to him if you keep him as your starter. Like, number one, you need him to restructure because your cap situation is just mind-bogglingly bad. But
first off, if you keep him, he's not. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the starter, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying he would never be amenable to that situation, as he wasn't when it happened for 2 games this year, when he was literally turning the ball over at a historic rate. I just think he's not, like, he needs to fix his head. Like, if you want him to be your quarterback that everyone's paying. I just think, why would some team want to spend capital when you can go sign a Jameis Winston or something, who obviously doesn't have the mobility that Carson Wentz does, but, you know, the same kind of drawbacks when it comes to volatility. I think Carson Wentz had a really, really good stretch in 2017, but, you know, in 2018, 2019, and 2020, I've definitely been, waiting for it to happen for him.
So last year, let's take a look at last year's numbers.
Yeah, he finished last year sensation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, considering what was around him, talent wise, I would say he had a pretty sensational 2019. I think this year, what you saw was a culmination of the line just further and further eroding. They never addressed it after the Super Bowl. They kept getting older and older. Then when they did draft an offensive lineman, he goes down for the year. They have to
Brandon Brooks.
They have to call.
Started showing up too. Like, guys were like, it really did go from
they called off the street, and we're going to play you at guard. No, wait, you got to be our left tackle again, and it's a patchwork. So he started getting hit. He started trying to do it all on his own, and he started making poor decisions. And does that mean he's a bad quarterback? No, that means he was in a bad situation. I think pulling the plug on Carson Wentz for the season was probably a good thing for him. It gave him a chance to step back, compartmentalize, watch the team. And it'll be interesting to see what happens this offseason if he remains on the roster, which he's got a roster bonus coming up shortly here in March. Ty did get a haircut, Daniel.
And he does look sharp.
So at this point, I still think Carson Wentz is going to be the guy. I hope he is. I'm rooting for this kid hard.
Yeah, I like what you guys said there, Ty, especially the mental piece. He definitely has to get it right. And I think it's a combination of what you were saying, Term, is that he was just getting smacked behind the offensive line. I think he's always maybe had a little bit of that do it himself about his game, where he tries to extend plays a little bit too long, even in 2019, 18, and 17. It's just those years he was actually making some spectacular plays off of some of that stuff, as opposed to fumbling and throwing interceptions like he was this year. And then the Jalen Hurts coming in just got into his psyche. And I talked about this on a pod, I believe, Ty, mid-season or so, that he was, every time he'd make a shitty play or a turnover, he's standing on the field looking around to see if there's a flag or the interception's going to get overturned or something, instead of just putting his head down, getting off the field and getting back to the next drive. So I definitely think there was a lot mental going on.
My whole beef is just in Philly. Carson Wentz in Philly. If he goes to the Colts behind an elite offensive line with Frank Wright and familiarity, then sky's the limit, especially for fantasy as well. But in Philadelphia, with everybody readily willing to make excuses for Carson Wentz, I was being totally hyperbolic because he did finish last year sensational with nothing at his disposal, got him to the playoffs single-handedly in 2019. So, I was being hyperbolic, but I still think he really just melted the fuck down this year. And I agree with you. You don't want that as your quarterback, especially in a situation where you need him to take a reduced salary next year and you need little things from him. And you also need your quarterback, as a Big Ben Roethlisberger guy, as a Steelers fan, I can attest to the fact that you just want your quarterback to be of the right makeup. It goes such a long way. Ask Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay fans too, why they only have one championship here in the last decade. It just feels like he doesn't have that piece that is kind of necessary to be a top 10 quarterback in this league.
And it may just, like you said, he may just need a fresh start somewhere else.
And I really hope he gets it.
And the Eagles may just need a fresh start.
True that.
From that contract they should do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they have hurt.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Very nice, gentlemen. So talked a little bit of birds. Beezy, what's your desirable quarterback landing spot?
All right, well, the team that I'm looking at to make a lot of moves this offseason and kind of get themselves back on track is the New England Patriots. Quietly, Belichick has been, collecting his draft picks. He's got 6 picks in the first 4 rounds. They've got plenty of cap space. They got $67.5 million. The only quarterback on the roster right now is Jarrett Stidham. So we know that that's not very promising. New England holds they hold the 50th overall pick in the draft. There's a very good shot here that, something I could see Belichick doing would be to take Mac Jones around the 15th pick and maybe I know. And maybe
getting hot and bothered.
Maybe sign Ryan Fitzpatrick to a 1-year deal, just that bridge quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Get his offense back moving again. Obviously, they need to upgrade the wide receiver position. They're going to be getting a lot of players back off the COVID list this year. They lost a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Yep.
They had 6 or 7 starters opt out.
Starters.
Captains, special team captains, defensive captains. That defense can still be elite. So don't think Belichick's just going to sit back and try to just do this developmental offense. If he knows his defense is elite, he is going to add some pieces to that offense to see if they can get him going. Now, does McDaniels stay? I think he does. I mean, it doesn't look like he's going to get another job elsewhere. That's just kind of the rumors that are floating in New England. But I really think that they're going to make a push at upgrading that quarterback position through the draft, but I could see them getting a Fitzpatrick or even an Andy Dalton with
Tyrod Taylor or something.
Somebody just to kind of bridge that gap, let Mac Jones develop, and continue to move forward, because Belichick cannot be happy that Brady left and got a ring in Tampa Bay. That's got to piss him off.
Don't.
You know what I mean?
I love Mac Jones, and I would love him in New England, but I don't think Bill Belichick has long coveted the mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
And I
because
think
you can run that offense, like you can run a simple offense with a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what he went for last year. Because I was expecting Cam to throw a little bit, but not too much.
the problem is Cam can't throw.
It took me 8 or 9 years, but I'm coming around to that fact. Yeah,
I love Mac Jones, and he's my number 2 quarterback in the class.
Steelers.
Yeah,
so I would love to see him go to New England.
Yeah, it's
one.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say one thing I'm noticing with the quarterback market is kind of the aggressiveness of all the teams. Have you guys noticed that? Like number one, I think there is some good landing spots too. Like I talked about with running back, like it's trippy how there is some nice landing spots for quarterback right now too. Like we talked about Indianapolis, the Broncos kind of have a plethora of weapons. You got Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. Notice the order I listed those in term, by the way. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. That was a good poll. I liked your dynasty polls. That was just a shout out to those two you had.
I'm a Cortland Sutton fan. I really love Cortland Sutton, and I went about quietly, after his knee surgery, and then I gave it a few weeks and let people forget about him, and then I quietly went about acquiring him in trades. I really like Cortland Sutton, but I also really like Jerry Jeudy.
Me too. I like DJ Hamler.
I think Drew Lock needs to realize that he's in a very, very envious position. And if he doesn't get it done with these guys, he's probably not going to be able to get it done, right? I mean, I hate to say that, but
100%. They have Noah Fant, you got AOK there, like they have everything in place. Granted, Pat Shermer isn't the guy I'd necessarily want, pulling the strings or anything, but it's one of those situations like almost hard to fuck up because they have that offensive line kind of coming into their own in Denver as well with Mike Munchak coaching them up there. So
I would love to see what my guy Daniel Jones could do with that kind of talent at receiver and tight end and running back. I'm like, and the Giants do have a running back, but your best of, as the legendary Marty Schottenheimer would say, your best ability is your availability, and Saquon Barkley has not been available to him. Denver is a prime position for someone. They could they could bring in a veteran and make some pretty sweet music on offense. I think. I don't even
get Fitzmagic in there. Get Fitzmagic slinging it.
Even Andy Dalton, dude. I mean, you give Andy Dalton weapons, and he can move the ball.
Heard Dalton looks good in orange.
I sure does.
The Panthers are the other one, guys. I really like the Panthers because we're hearing Teddy Bridgewater is being shopped and stuff. So, which really interested me. I thought they would just stick it out one more year with him, but I think they're realizing that they're a pretty good team on offense already, no matter who their quarterback is. Like, you're going to have Christian McCaffrey at your disposal, the freest money there is. You got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Joe Brady, who I think is going to be a head coach in 2022.
Yep.
And so
Joe Brady, that was his pick, right? He wanted Teddy Bridgewater, and so then now they're already moving on. We're gonna
it's funny, Yeah,
it's crazy. But I think, all things considered, and I wasn't on the Teddy Bridgewater bandwagon, but all things considered, I thought he played well this year. He made Robbie Anderson relevant. More than relevant.
He had some super head scratching turnovers too. Like, I love Teddy and everything he endeared himself in the community in Carolina too already, like we knew he would. But I think it's pretty obvious they want the upgrade. I think Teddy was a great signing at the time too. Like, it made a lot of sense.
I don't know how many games the Panthers won. I called them a 5-win team in the preseason. I think they won 5 games.
I think you were spot on. Yeah.
I don't think, who thought they were going to be better than that?
Nobody. Everyone was saying they were the number 1 overall pick. Yeah.
I thought they were going to have a chance to get Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
that's Joe Brady. Awesome. If you ask me.
Yep.
Yeah. And like what really trips me out is that these teams have been hyperactive. Like Teddy and Drew Lock, these guys are being offered in trades for Matthew Stafford and stuff. So I wonder, like, if this hyperactivity, I don't know what it says about if these, like, how these teams feel about the quarterback class behind Trevor Lawrence, maybe. Like, seeing all the musical chairs, I don't know if this is kind of a condemnation on the rookie quarterbacks. And if I answer no, then I think we could see a lot of trade ups come draft day because all these teams are vying for a quarterback right now.
I don't think it's so much as a condemnation on next year's class as it is of realization that if you don't have a quarterback, you cannot win in this league.
Yeah.
Period. You can pile up some regular season stats and you might sneak into the playoffs, but you are not winning in this league without a quarterback. And you know, if you don't have that franchise guy, and you know, I'll respect to Bridgewater, he ain't it. The quicker you realize that, and the quicker you go and get your guy, the quicker you are on that path to turning it around and going after a Lombardi. I think
and some of these teams might not be in range to pick these guys, right? And so maybe they're anticipating a big quarterback run early in the draft where
I think you're going to see a lot of moves.
Yeah,
me too.
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
Yes. I think it's going to be a crazy year for seeing these different trades and stuff. Like we haven't seen a ton of it. It's always hyped up. This year it's going to happen. I really, truly feel like it's going to.
It's a shame. I wish I could get my hands on the Steelers wide receiver scouting report, even though I don't expect them to draft many, but without a combine this year, teams are gonna have to fall back on their scouting, their college scouting. So you dynasty players, go back and look at some tendencies and see who drafted what. You know,
good point.
The track records of these guys.
And it's also why landing spots become a little bit more important this offseason because, you know, we can still follow meetings and things like that and predict landing spots and be interested in a landing spot more even so than a running back that you might have in the same tier. Because, you know, I was going to add that earlier, Trav, and I probably should have, but for running backs, the whole running backs don't matter debate, it really does relate to fantasy in my opinion. But what we should say is that situation is just so much more important for 90% of running backs than their talent. And it's simple as that, in my opinion, for fantasy especially.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we see all of these guys coming out of nowhere at the end of the season to become league winners and maybe never doing anything again. Like you look at like Jalen Samuels with the Steelers a couple years ago, Ty. And
you say Jeff Wilson, I'm off the pod.
No, absolutely not. You know I love Jeff Wilson. That guy's going places, man.
He's the realest deal.
Yeah, he's going to be back end running back 2 in 2021. Book it.
I was actually looking at a mock draft for the NFL draft, and there was a trade of the Panthers trading to get Deshaun Watson from the Texans, giving up the number 8 overall, the 21 second, 22 first, 22 fourth, and make a move to go grab Deshaun Watson. Which if that happened, Lord,
If
I were the Texans, I would LOL at the Panthers.
Of course you would.
Especially because you could pick up the phone and play Miami and the Jets off each other if you're going to get a bidding war. And that's how you get. And actually, I would never, ever be saying trade an elite quarterback. It's like the hardest thing to fucking find. And you have the 1 in 6 that exist on the planet right now. But in this unique situation where you have no draft picks, you have a new GM, new head coach, and a quarterback who really won't re-sign with you. I promise he's going to leave anyways. So you might want to take
he can't leave. He can't leave if he sits out.
But he can sit out. Because of that whole accrue your season. You won't accrue your season. But he has the power. He can get out of there if he wants.
What power does he have?
The NFL player star power. Like
he has no power.
Yeah, like technically not. But I do think some players are starting to wield their power a little bit that they have. Because, I just go back to
he can wield it from the players' lounge at my arena, because there's no way I would trade that guy.
No, I wouldn't either. But Nick Caserio's in a really, really, really bad spot.
He isn't. He's in a tough spot. Mm-hmm. I don't envy him. I would not trade that dude. Just exactly for what you said. That is the most hard position to find. It is hard to get quarterback right. You got it right. You got one of the top, in my opinion, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the league. There's no way I trade that guy. There is no compensation package that they can get back for Deshaun Watson that is going to equate to Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like the Seahawks, and you see the team is eroding around Russell Wilson. But as long as they have Russell Wilson, they have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's like it's like a poker tournament. As long as you have a chip and a share, you have a prayer. And
Yeah.
as long as you got Deshaun Watson, man, you got a shot. I wouldn't trade him. There's no way I'd trade him.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, Ty. So we've covered these positional landing spots, talking about some situations, and I think we got a lot of good stuff out. Why don't you move us into the under the radar free agent section of the pod here?
Yeah, so perhaps like guys listeners aren't hearing about on a daily basis, or ones who won't show up on every free agent to target list or whatever. Let's start with the toughest position to determine what a sleeper is anyways. Let's start at quarterback. And I will leave like sleeper open to interpretation for this whole segment, boys. Like go as shallow or as deep as you want. That came out wrong. But quarterback, quarterback.
Only go deep, baby.
Are there any signal callers, like thinking more even for Superflex owners? What do you think, Term? Like are there any signal callers that you think will kind of fly under the radar that we should have our eye on?
Man, there's a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of guys that every year it seems like these Superflex leagues, these quarterbacks become relevant, like second and third string guys, and you're spot starting them. And Nick Mullens is one I'm interested to see where he goes.
Yes.
He's a restricted free agent.
Yeah, that's right.
So he could get out of San Francisco, and if he does, where does he go? And I'm looking at him, and I'm also looking at like Marcus Mariota. See, to me, Marcus Mariota is the perfect New England stopgap.
Yeah,
that mobile quarterback
Awesome.
that Bill Belichick covets, who can play. If the Raiders elect to move on from Carr is a very underrated quarterback. These are guys that aren't costing you a premium in Superflex leagues, who could be the difference in making the playoffs and making a run and not. I mean, to me, you can't have too many quarterbacks in a Superflex league.
Yep,
absolutely.
I want to have as many backups, as I feel like I can comfortably carry. And these are guys that are going to be changing teams this year, and you really should have your finger. Is Fitzmagic going to play again, and if so, where?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Denver. What are they going to do? They're going to bring somebody in behind Drew Lock who can play, and if so, how long is his leash?
Yep.
Long.
The 49ers, are they going to continue ahead with Jimmy G, or are they going to pull some miracle trade for, another quarterback out there that Shanahan covets, like Matt Ryan, who there have been rumors. So the last off season was like, I thought it was going to reset the whole market, and it did quarterback wise. It could happen again this off season.
Yep.
Well, Sam Darnold, where's he going? What are the Jets going to do? They got a high draft pick up there. It's just going to be real interesting to see where all these pieces fall and where these guys are playing in 2021.
Bees, what say you?
I'm going to be a couple guys. I'm looking at Jameis Winston. I want to see where he ends up landing. He could be a difference maker on an offense that's just missing a quarterback. Yeah, the Colts might be one. So he's a kid that I want to see. I'm also, oh God, did I just have another brain fart, man? Hold on. We'll talk about Andy Dalton real quick. I think he could be a good backup somewhere. I actually like him a lot going to Denver. He's successful with a lot of weapons around him. You give him weapons, he can produce. He would be like that perfect cheap 2-year quarterback to get them through if Drew Lock disappears. And man, I had another name and I completely Gardner. What is
very nice?
I got a big name that we should talk about. And let's say the unthinkable happens and and they're unable to get a deal worked out, and Dak Prescott becomes a free agent.
Yeah.
Did you guys see their hype video came out? So the Cowboys made their 2021 hype video. No Dak Prescott. Just saying.
Well,
Dak in Denver.
The way the cap is going, I don't think they're going to be able to use the franchise tag on him again.
No,
and if they do, field a competitive football team, man, if he gets to the open market, that's just such a major faux pas from the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God, I will never let Jerry Jones put that down.
After the first 4 games of this season, he should have been banging on Dak's hospital door.
Yes, he should.
Blank check.
And that's what I said when he went down. Like, yeah, it sucks he went out for the year. He can use some pretty remarkable arguments in that negotiation table now. Like, I was on pace for this historic number, this historic number, this historic number. You made me throw this many times through 4 games. Like, he has all the leverage in the world after pulling the Joe Flacco and being 10 times better than Joe Flacco.
And I'll give a piece. You guys may disagree, but I'm going to give a piece of dynasty advice. If you can trade Dak Prescott for X elite quarterback plus, he will never play with a defense as historically bad as he played the first 4 games of this past season. His numbers will never be that astronomically great. And it's been, obviously week 4 was a long time ago, but his value at that time, it will probably never be that high. It might not ever be as high as it is right now again. And if you can get another elite quarterback plus a piece, you should do it.
Well, it was funny because as we were just talking about that, like literally 5 minutes ago, somebody just said to me, what would it take for me if I wanted to get Dak off you, starting with Kyler Murray?
I mean, if I could trade Dak for Kyler Murray plus
yes, that's what I'm working on right now. It's funny.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
All day.
Yeah.
But just to go back real fast, that was an awesome one, Dak. I love it. But don't sleep on Gardner Minshew this year. He could end up into a spot where he could become a starter. Now, he might not be the best quarterback out there, but he's got some moxie. He's got that leadership. He can develop. I do like him moving forward. I would be trying to throw out some offers in the Superflex to try to get him on the cheap and see where
is he under contract? Isn't he under contract?
Yeah, he's still on his rookie deal.
He's still on his rookie deal, but I mean, obviously they can cut him, and obviously too, if they could trade him, if they end up taking a quarterback, obviously first overall, then
Trent Baalke, their new general manager, is a complete moron. He is a complete moron. So if they trade him, it wouldn't surprise me. But there's no way. If I were the general manager, I wouldn't trade him.
Yeah, like a free 5th round pick. You wouldn't. I wouldn't either.
Your team is only as good as your backup quarterback. Yeah. I mean, so
I would say though, we're seeing more like position trades. Like if they can get the Patriots' 3rd cornerback or something for Gardner Minshew, I think that would make a lot of sense for both teams.
I don't know that I would trade,
but I totally agree. Like trading Gardner Minshew doesn't make a lot of sense because he's such a free, perfect insurance.
He's a free square. Yeah, he's a free square. And like I said, Baalke is a moron. I have no idea how he found work. None whatsoever. So
nothing would, an amazing thing. Yeah,
nothing would surprise me. But I wouldn't trade Minshew, but he would be, if he does get out of Jacksonville, he'd definitely be one to watch. Definitely.
Yeah. So the only names we didn't really mention there, we have like Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby Brissett, guys who have some legs, also have a little bit of arm strength. Moving into the running backs, I kind of, there's not a ton of running backs on the market, like always, that we're super interested in. But who do you guys think is a guy who could experience like a big dynasty bump from signing somewhere in free agency, or a running back you just love and are excited to see sign somewhere?
I'll take first stab at it. I'm going to go. Gus Edwards is a kid that I'm looking at to see where he ends up. He's a good running back. He's got some juice. He's He's a tough kid between the tackles. Looks like he's got good vision. He ran well last year in the time that he got. And I think he could fit well into, a couple of these teams' offensive schemes. And I'm interested to see where he ends up. He's definitely somebody that I've been trying to acquire, but he's not as easy to acquire as people think.
Mm-hmm.
So people are kind of onto him.
Back at the start of the season, I was able to go through and pick Gus Edwards up off the waiver wire in 4 or 5 dynasty leagues.
Mm-hmm.
I liked what I saw the last year from Gus Edwards. And so I have a lot of him. So if he were to find his way to a starter's role somewhere, I would love that.
Yeah, he had a pretty quiet 700 yards that year.
Easy.
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, he did.
It's going to be interesting, though, because I'm pretty sure he's a restricted free agent. And with Mark Ingram out the door, I'm curious to see whether the Ravens tender him, because I think they like him a lot. And I could see them giving him a second-round tender.
Okay.
Just because Dobbins is on that rookie deal. I would love to see him get a full role, but I think even if it's just him and Dobbins in that Ravens backfield, I think much like his 2019, he could be good for that 750 rushing yards, and he has some touchdown upside being a big body, and they like to use him in the red zone as well. So I think he could be a solid flex play for rosters, even if he does stay with the Ravens and doesn't go somewhere to get a bigger piece of pie.
So I'll throw it back a bit. Do you guys remember the DVD backfield? Dunn, Vic, Duckett.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Michael Vick. I think that might be the time we saw 3 guys from the same backfield eclipse 1,000 yards. And if they were to re-sign Gus Edwards, I could see those 3 guys all rushing for over 1,000 yards next year.
That would icy, especially in today's NFL. And I think that's a good point, though, because I think they're going to stick with that offense. Everybody's talking about them adding a wide receiver. I don't think there's really room in that offense to add another wide receiver unless the guy's going to be blocking for you, right? So it's going to be interesting.
The Ravens, they can add all the wide receivers they want, right? They can be there, but if they're not going to throw them the football, what difference does it make?
Exactly. I don't think they necessarily. I think they just need to keep committing to that run with how effective Gus and JK can be as a 1-2 punch.
Sorry, I was going to say, that's my only knock on Gus Edwards is that they don't throw him the ball. He is literally a 0 in the passing game.
Yep.
I would say the perfect wide receiver for Baltimore Ravens to go grab right now is Sammy Watkins. Just throw him out on the field and just let him be.
They need someone on IR.
Let him continue to be a pylon.
Yeah. Exactly. Just there you go.
There's a interesting landing spot that we didn't bring up. The Chiefs wide receiver 2 spot.
Oh, I have a spicy one for you, baby.
I wish I could say that it's going to be Mecole, but I'm backing off of that a little bit.
Yeah, it's not going to be Mecole. I tried to tell people when they went crazy on Mecole Hardman in the first round of rookie drafts that they were wasting picks, but their wide receiver 2 spot. Who's it going to be? I don't think he's on the roster.
Yeah.
And they have shown a propensity to continue to go after offensive players in the face of needs like backup tackle, backup swing tackle, or but they've been able to buy time by finding gems in the later rounds on defense. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with their first round pick this year, and do they draft a wide receiver and where they think they need to go. I don't think Kansas City is going to be nearly as dominant next year as they were this past year. I think they've got a lot of holes to fill. So we'll see. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
I mean, they're losing Sammy, so.
Say what?
I mean, they're losing Sammy off the roster, so that's quite the dent in production for sure.
And Demarcus Robinson. So I think to that point, they are going to add the profile of wide receiver will probably mimic that of a possession wide receiver is probably what they're going to be after. But I also we've been kind of waiting for that third guy to explode in this explosive offense under Patrick Mahomes. It's been so prolific, but we kind of have been we're still waiting on that happening. Tyreek was number 1 wide receiver. Him and Devontae Adams were in their own galaxy in points per game. And then you had, Travis Kelce doing his thing. So there's not a lot behind them. And I worry that maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire and they run more next year. There's a lot of reasons that I'd be kind of off the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City because that guy will come with a lot of steam probably if it's not Mecole or Byron Pringle or something.
I have a name, a guy that I have been wanting to see go to KC. I think would be a great fit in that system. And his name is Curtis Samuel. And I think that this kid brings a lot of versatility to that offense. You've seen what he could do in Carolina, whether it was lining up in the backfield as a running back, lining up in the slot, lining on the outside, screens, but like kid does it all.
Curtis Samuel going back to Jacksonville with Urban Meyer, baby.
Oh, he could. And they started popping him in the slot. And he looked fantastic.
He looked fantastic wherever they put him.
Yeah, he was when he gets a ball in his hand, he looked like a Debo or an Ayuk dude. Like he's got
put him in the backfield.
Yeah, kid is just a beast. And in that kind of a system with a coach like Andy Reid and a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, the way that they could scheme him into the game would just be be awesome. Yeah,
Unfair. Yeah. Is that the word you were looking for?
Yes, thank you. And I'm all about that. I would love to see Curtis Samuel go over there.
Here's a running back landing spot we didn't mention: Arizona.
No,
my God,
I want to see that.
Is gone. Who's going to be their ball carrier?
I had said Aaron Jones, and I said this on Twitter. I'm like, can you imagine Aaron Jones standing next to Kyler Murray?
I mean, Aaron Jones can't go everywhere.
No, he can't. But that was pretty fun. That was my first original post like a while back. And of course, it got like 100-something likes, and people were like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "I know."
And Trav, me and you, we've talked a lot about the Arizona Cardinals run game over the last couple of years. Jumped off the page, right? And Kyler Murray builds in that same efficiency that Lamar Jackson builds in for his running backs. We've seen that, and I think maybe we underestimated his how significant his share of goal line touches would be in 2020. But if you look at yards before contact, it's a way that you can kind of see the advantage a running back gets in Arizona because, in Kingsbury's spread out system, teams can't stack the box ever, and they have to place a spy on Kyler Murray, assumedly. So it just builds in a ton of free yards for the running back in that spot. I love it.
I got a better one for you in Arizona, Beezy.
Ooh.
Javonte Williams.
Oh. Boner alert.
That's what it's got to be now. It's just got to be a whisper. You just say Javonte.
Yeah. Dude, that would be a absolute power move for that offense, and I would probably be trying to trade to get one of those top picks, which I have none of right now. So
we all know I don't have any picks.
No, we get rid of them, baby. We get rid of them.
Coupons.
Do you guys think some of the bigger names like Kenny Golladay and Chris Godwin end up hitting the market, or do you guys think those are guys who end up being
Kenny Golladay to Green Bay? I'm calling it right now.
Ooh. Kenny Golladay, Devontae Adams. Oh, that's hot.
They gotta make
Kenny Golladay flipping the bird to the Lions too.
Yeah. I think Tampa's going to make a good push at getting Godwin locked up. If anything, they're going to use the franchise tag on him.
Bruce Arians said today he wasn't going anywhere. I mean, that could obviously be whatever, but he said you're not going anywhere. So
yeah, I personally think I think the Tampa Bay is going to be re-signing Godwin. I think they're going to re-sign Antonio Brown, Gronk. I think they're just going to go all in for one more year, run at it. As long as Brady's a quarterback, they want to keep that trifecta together.
Absolutely.
And go for it again. So
Kenny Golladay will definitely see the market.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think Golladay is definitely more like Godwin. The play for Tampa Bay, because they do have a little bit of cap constrictions going on. Like they should extend him so they can bring that cap number in 2021 down, push the money down the road, and that's a good way for someone with a 44-year-old quarterback going into next year who obviously will be going for it to get some relief at least. I think.
And on you guys who I just traded for Tom Brady in a dynasty league. I needed a quarterback. I thought my team was a contender with another quarterback, so I traded for Tom Brady.
That was for me, wasn't it?
No, I traded a gentleman. His name is actually anonymous. In one of my leagues, I think I sent him a second-round pick, and I sent him Anthony McFarland Jr.
Okay.
For Tom Brady.
Okay.
So I told him at the time, I said, this seems pricey, but I'm doing it anyway.
All right.
So,
hey, got to win, baby. What were we just talking about, though? I just lost what we were talking. We were talking about something.
Beezy, you always lose what we're talking about.
It gets, dude. When I get out of the restaurant and I'm just like, my mind's like, dude,
just bring the sexy, baby. That's all we require.
That's what I'm trying to do, man. That's what I'm trying to do. Will Fuller. That's who I had going to Green Bay potentially. I think that could be a monster.
I think Green Bay is going to have a hard time bringing in one of these wide receivers. Like, they're pretty up against it cap wise. They got to re-sign some guys. They got to restructure some guys to get one of these guys. I think
they can always look at A-Rod and say, "Look, man,
yeah,
we're trying to go one more for you. Can you help us out? We need.
And that's kind of why I don't see it though. Like, is Aaron Rodgers going to be like, no problem, you guys have been good to me this last year and a half? He's going to be like, fuck you guys, yeah, like get out of here.
Yeah, pay me that money.
Like, I do think Aaron Rodgers at some point has to accept the fact that he needs to take a little bit less so that they can build a really good set of offensive weapons around him. It's simple as that.
The Tom Brady way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The one I like, just a wide receiver guy I was thinking of because he's a California boy, Marvin Jones, thinking of teams who kind of up against it, like the Rams are up against it, but a reuniting of Matt Stafford and Marvin Jones makes a ton of sense because you have just Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods there, and Marvin Jones, like he could replace everything Josh Reynolds has quietly been accumulating for the Rams.
Not a Devin. Help me out, Beezy.
Van Jefferson.
I wanted to call him Duvernay, and I know that wasn't.
Yeah, well, I think that would be like, would Marvin Jones come in and just immediately play over Van Jefferson? I don't think that would be a foregone conclusion, but Van Jefferson's not going anywhere. I like Van Jefferson. I just think
he's an older. How much Marvin Jones? How much tread is left on those tires?
No, I agree. Yeah. I'm just thinking for him, that would be a perfect landing spot for a guy that completely paints the picture of what I was talking about earlier. Like Marvin Jones is a wide receiver that we would have targeted in the past when he went from Cincinnati to Detroit because he was going to see an uptick in volume and he was younger. But now that he's seen over 100 targets per game on a per game basis, for half a decade straight, this is when you fade a 30-year-old wide receiver hitting the market. It's just super.
Speaking of which, AJ Green.
Yeah.
Are you fading AJ Green completely, or does it matter where he lands?
I traded AJ Green in like every league, like in a year, in the last like 2 or 3 years. I always get out on these kind of wide receivers, especially in AJ Green, who will have that name brand value. And if someone gets an extra year out of him, then fine. I still probably got fair value. If he falls off, then I won the shit out of that trade. Like I feel bad for our listeners because I just come across super braggy as always, but I did trade him like 2.5 years ago for Christian McCaffrey coming off his bad rookie season. And those are the kind of trades that I always look to make with wide receivers.
That's a league that I commission, so I can definitely confirm that.
And what I did, Trav, is the next year I went out and picked up Godwin before he blew up, right? Like you just have to make those kind of moves and you're just balancing the roster at that point.
Yeah. When it's Dynasty, you have to get your guy before he blows up.
Yeah.
Which is why I spent all off season trying to get Justin Herbert in every Superflex league I was in. He was my number 2 quarterback. A lot of people had forgot that he was actually going to be the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Had he elected to come out of Oregon the year before, he's just a guy who looked really good to me on film, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's not a leader. He left a Senior Bowl practice or something." I'm like, "What the fuck are you even talking about?" So yeah, you got to get.
It's not for that he was inconsistent. Like but it's like we've seen the big plays, the legs, the arm, like it's been on tape. Yeah.
So yeah, to your point, you got to get those guys early before they blow up.
Yes, sir. Make them.
That's getting harder and harder to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, people are getting savvy. I mean, with AJ Green, I pulled off one trade this year. I traded 3 21 firsts and AJ Green. And in return, this was at the like probably 3 weeks in, I got DeAndre Swift and Justin Jefferson.
Wow.
Nice.
That was the trade.
Nice.
That was the original that my original Sons of Dynasty League, which I ended up winning the ship in that this year. And that was one of my favorite trades I made all year. I was stoked.
That's insane.
That's so good.
Stoked.
Did you give this fellow a reach around?
Oh man, this fellow is one of my favorite dudes, and he said I caught him when he was drinking.
Yeah, I'd say that too.
But this
Always
is
be trading, except when drinking.
well, you know what? You got to
Shout
know
out
your
to Go
league.
District.
Yeah, you got to know your league mates, and you got to know their weaknesses. And some people like them draft picks an awful lot.
Yeah,
Sounds true.
It's like the Peter Griffin thing. Do you want the speedboat or the mystery box?
Yeah.
Well, there
could be anything.
The mystery box could be anything. It could be a speedboat.
Oh, real quick, I did have one more wide receiver, Corey Davis.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
Corey
beautiful.
Davis. What are you thinking about Corey Davis? Where's he going? Where's he going to land?
I think he's a
He
wide receiver.
definitely made some money. He made himself some money for sure.
Yeah. He played through a
Yeah,
lot, not to mention COVID. He also lost his brother this year. Like, he had a tough year off-field wise, like obstacles to overcome. I was very, very impressed with Corey Davis. And he's a bigger wide receiver that we should have allowed more time to develop anyways. Like, he's kind of been thrust into some unforgiving situations. And I think this year as a complimentary wide receiver, he looked really outstanding. Like, imagine him playing like the Nelson Aguilar role anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be a guy who can take pressure off the other guy, who a quarterback can still go to and give him something. So I really like Corey Davis as a guy we should be buying heading into free agency.
He's a guy that needs to be a number 2.
Yeah.
He needs to be.
Well,
I think that's probably going to happen
the
too.
Chiefs makes so much sense. Like, the Chiefs would be the one place where I'd be all over them. Just
What
because
about
they
Green
really- I
Bay?
think they need that. Yeah, Green Bay
too.
would be good.
100%.
That actually
I think-
makes a ton of sense, Ty, for him to take that number 2
Yeah,
spot.
because like Devontae Adams, they have kind of like contrasting styles a little bit. Like, they might actually cut into each other's work a little bit. And I think from real life, it would make a lot of sense. But from a fantasy perspective, the Chiefs make schematic sense, and I would definitely be all over them there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have Corey Davis pretty high in my wide receiver ranks. I have him higher than Curtis Samuel because I see Corey Davis getting a better landing spot.
Ooh,
I would probably do the same too.
that's
probably have-
spicy.
I know. I'm looking at it. I might change it. Like, I said it out loud, and I don't like it.
You Canadians are wild, man.
Wow.
Wild
Wow.
motherfuckers.
I thought we were going to talk about like geese hunting and maple syrup tonight.
Okay, I got a quick one here because we were
Spicy
just talking
takes,
about
boy.
this. We were just talking about this in the True North chat, and it's is totally like it's about geese. It's not a fantasy football story. But we were just talking about how we have a couple of goose murderers in the True North chat. Not intentional by any means, but one time when I was 10, I was golfing with my dad. I hit a worm burner, and there's geese on the fairway at Mount Doug. Ty, you know those, the holes that are at the back of the trees there. Hit a worm burner, caught the fucker in the neck.
In the neck, I did the same thing.
It was hanging upside down and flapping around. Like, it was kind of traumatizing at the time, but now that I think about it, like, buddy
Funny
who
as
works for
fuck.
the golf course is like, doesn't even bat an eyelash. He just throws it in the back of the John Deere and just drives off, and we carry on with our golfing.
I hit one in the neck. I hit one of those low stingers, and it caught dude in the neck and killed him. And a friend of mine did the same thing, and he hit him in the leg and shattered this poor geese's leg. That was probably
Fuck them. They ruined our football jerseys for every Sunday growing up forever. Like, yeah.
True. Yeah. Pay it, the no net crew. It pays, boys. It pays.
Yeah. Hashtag
Shout
no
out
neck
to you
crew, baby.
fellas. Yeah.
Hey, Trav,
I'm
that's
getting tuned with this thing. I'm gonna get
Trav.
tuned.
That's a nice Mount Me hat.
Oh man.
That was awesome.
Okay, Ty, what the fuck were we talking about here?
I don't even know. We
I
got
think we're completely out of script. Like, we're 100% out of script. We were talking wide receiver landing spots, which, Nelson Aguilar, we didn't like. There's not a lot of names left out there. Plus, wide receiver is always the position with the least amount of talent, or at least the most overvalued talent from a fantasy perspective. But that might be the tight end position. Like, you just don't see a lot of talented tight ends hit the market because of the incubation period, the development, the learning curve. Like, by the time a tight end comes into their own, usually you can sign them to an affordable second contract. But if anybody has any tight ends, hit me.
There's one tight end that I'm watching a little bit, and that's Gerald Everett.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, this kid, he's an athletic tight end. He's not a fantastic blocker, but he's not terrible. But this kid can move. He can run routes. He's got decent speed, and I really don't know why, but I love him on the Cincinnati Bengals.
They need somebody.
They need a tight end bad.
That's my favorite Kyle Pitts landing spot, actually, is the Bengals.
Oh, okay.
Here's a tight end that I'm watching, not because I think he's particularly awesome, but I think his teammate is awesome, and this is not really a secret to any savvy dynasty player, and that's Kyle Rudolph. I would love to see him get out of Minnesota so that Irv Smith could have that position, that move tight end position to himself. I think he could ascend straight into the top 5 if Kyle Rudolph goes out of town. He's that dynamic player, and they look for him in the red zone already. He's already one of Kirk Cousins' go-to guys in the red zone. So he's a
high percent of his targets were like end zone targets this year. It was crazy.
Yeah,
his
I think it was a quarter of his targets. He had 40 targets and 10 red zone.
Does anybody worry about that Kubiak system? Because Mini Kubiak comes in as offensive coordinator, so they are not changing their scheme.
I'm worried.
Yeah.
It's just that he plays a lot of his snaps out of the slot. Like, people don't necessarily recognize that all the time. Like, guys like Gesicki and Jonnu, and these guys play a lot out of the slot. So I just worry a little bit that he's going to be capped if someone like Tyler Conklin is I hope it works out for Irv Smith, but I think a lot of people love Irv Smith. I'll put it that way.
I don't think I was introducing anything groundbreaking there by saying I like Irv Smith. You brought up an interesting point though, and I think it's being overlooked. I haven't seen anyone mention this until you just did. The Gary Kubiak retirement. I am hella worried about the implications for that offense, because I don't care that they're hiring someone with the last name Kubiak and the scheme is the same. Offensive play calling is an art, and you can either do it or you can't. And Gary Kubiak was one of the best. And that offense was really great. And so I'm hella worried about what we're going to see from that offense next year.
Yeah.
From Cousins, from Justin Jefferson, from everyone. I don't think they're just going to continue to not miss a beat and be the same. I could see them taking a step back.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a huge Irv guy. I mean, this kid, he's going into his 3rd year. He's 22 years old. All right, he's like the Juju Smith-Schuster of tight ends. It's like,
Sure. Nuts.
So yeah,
22 years old.
It's why he was always such a huge buy for me, because he was so young when he came in. You knew you had about 2 years to get him to get to a point where you're going to see something. But at that point, he was only going to be 22 years old. So you still have plenty of time with this kid. This offense is definitely going to look a little bit different. I mean, we don't know what Kubiak's son's going to do, and if he's going to, how much of the same system he's going to run is going to carry over. But, Irv is somebody I'm definitely buying, and I would love to see Kyle Rudolph get the hell out of there so he can, get that role locked down for good.
Yeah, I think
definitely a receiving tight end came through.
Don't ever.
Oh, Jesus!
Once, boys.
Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, like Jonnu and Hunter Henry are the big ones who are, big,
turd.
I think you want to go. Jonnu's a turd.
Jonnu's.
You want to go a little deeper? I like Jonnu a lot, actually. I think
that says it all. Folks.
Okay, get this guy off the fucking pod here.
Yards a tough one because it's like, how much do you weigh athleticism? Like, do you want to rely on yards after the catch, or do you want a tight end who operates more in the intermediate of the field? Because if he goes somewhere else, he's going to take a hit when it comes to touchdown totals, because the Titans in 2020 and in 2019 were freakishly efficient in scoring touchdowns at the red zone. And his end zone targets were just off the chart. So I definitely worry about the touchdown totals because he's been such an athletic guy with such a low average depth of target, but such high yards after the catch per reception.
Well,
so I think you're relying on stuff that I don't love to rely on for fantasy with Jonnu, but I definitely think he's a better version of Irv Smith.
Yeah, well, and I think like Jonnu hasn't really been.
I think
he hasn't been used up the seam like that before. We haven't really seen it too much, right? So I think if somebody were to give Johnny that plus his after the catch ability, like I think he has like a top 5 ceiling if he gets in the right situation.
Yeah.
Do you think he's better than Irv Smith?
Well, I think they're very similar guys in my opinion. Like they're smaller guys who need to be running routes out of the slot a lot, and they need to be catching passes to pay off for fantasy. And I just think, it depends what system they're in. Like I'm a very like landing spot dependent guy when it comes to tight ends. So, I think
Jonnu Smith to me is like a very, not even poor man's, we'll say homeless man's Antonio Gates.
See, I see him as like, I just see him as a guy who's like a really good dump off option who
he's a plotter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he gets a lot of good screens. And plus, he was in a system that, like, it gifted him all these looks that Delaney Walker was getting, who was one of my favorite tight ends my whole life. And, just the definition of these undersized, athletic, pass-catching tight ends that we're referring to.
I love Delaney Walker.
So he definitely he got some
49ers fan. Yeah.
And I think Johnny's a tight end to fade in a new location for sure. What about Hunter Henry then?
Hunter Henry.
I mean, he can't stay on the field.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with him. He's been hurt so much the last few years. I believe this was
red zone.
Talent's undeniable.
He's lost a step.
You see tight ends at his age with his kind of track record, so to speak, on the market very often at tight end. He's like, this is a tight end who should be coming into his own any second. But yeah, we've been waiting for that blow up season. It just hasn't come yet.
Yep. Other than that, though, there's not a lot of tight ends really on here.
No, the only other one that I've looked at, I was just going to say Jacob Hollister flashed with the Seahawks. He can catch the ball.
Trey Burton.
Jordan Reed. We got guys like that. Trey Burton might be my least favorite tight end in football.
Yeah, I'm not
he's
a huge
guy
fan
who
either.
can't play tight end. Like he's listed as a tight end, but he can't play tight end.
Nope. Yeah. I was never a huge fan of him.
He needs positionless football more than anybody. Trey Burton.
Straight up, man. Seriously.
Football.
Robert Tonyan's an RFA.
That's right. That's a good one. Yeah. Because
that's going to be a fat tender.
LA.
Who?
I have my eye on LA and seeing what Donald Parham can do without Hunter Henry there.
Yeah.
His profile is not that we should be jumping up and down, but he's so damn big and that red.
He came up clutch a couple times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And opportunity
likes him for sure.
Opportunity is everything.
Sure is.
All right, boys. So
yeah, we've been cranking for a while here.
I think that about wraps it up, fellas. Yeah, we kept you guys over $1.50 tonight, so I really, really appreciate you guys hanging out. I know it's a little bit later where you're at, and I know term
is an hour and a half. An hour and a half the same in Canadian as it is in our time.
Yeah, exchange rates equal, and we're thankful for that as far as time is concerned. Not the same with our money for sure. But really quick, gentlemen, I want to give a thanks to Viridian Global. They are the providers of our merch. Ty, I saw you rocking your True North hat on the Gold Jacket pod last night. You can see Terminator right there with the Undroppables hat. I believe that's the snapback, much like what I'm rocking. So I got the True North snapback as well. Everybody go check out truenorthffb.com/shop, or you can go straight to the viridianglobal.com website. They have tons of good stuff, including gear from the Undroppables from these boys, True North gear, bunch of different brands in the Viridian Football Collective. And yeah, we just can't thank them enough for what they do and the designs that they put out. It's awesome.
Trav, you and I still need to do a hat swap.
We are going to do a little hat swap so I can rock that UND gear. We gotta make sure we connect and send addresses on that. Yeah. I do actually want to give another shout out real quick, gentlemen. I'm going to let you guys let the people know where to find you and whatnot in a sec, but I want to give a shout out to some new members of the True North team. We've added quite a few in the last couple weeks. I'm going to put their Twitter handles in the description because I don't want to spell them all out here on air, but we got Nate, Matt, Daniel, Craig, Paul, and Unicorn Fringe. We just added her to the team as the first lady of the True North team. Yesterday, we just brought her on. So love all of them. We're super excited to get it cracking and put some work in. And also a shout out to the Dynasty Sons, who we've recently affiliated with for some video content on the TNFF network. We got D Brown and brother Matt are loving the video work, and they're putting out some stellar stuff on the TNFF network. So make sure you go there, subscribe to the channel. We love that. We're getting some good traction on the subscribers, and really excited to up our video content. And then lastly, just a big thanks to Term and Beezy for showing up tonight. I appreciate you guys rolling and hanging out with us. Paulie, if you're listening, we wish you could have made it, my man, but True North and the Undroppables are like family, so there is going to be another time, so don't worry about that.
Hell yeah.
Term, let's kick it off with you. Why don't you tell the people where to find you and what you got popping this off season?
You can't find me, and I don't have anything popping.
You can't see me.
Moving on.
You can find me at FF_Terminator. My stuff's at theundroppables.com. We got a great team. We just added 2 amazing prospects in Detroit Beastie and IDP Flea. We're really trying to cover all angles of this thing for you guys. And man, I can honestly say that there isn't a person on our team who isn't doing this for the love of it. Like we thoroughly enjoy helping you guys. I can't tell you how awesome and honored I am every time you guys hit my inbox and ask my advice. And I'll continue to do my best to provide the best advice that I can. Anytime you want to hit me up, feel free to do so. I look forward to it. I look forward to another great off season and subsequently another great, hopefully COVID-free 2021.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Term. And yeah, I personally have reached out to you for advice on fantasy stuff quite a bit, and I always appreciate the sage advice, my man. So anybody who's not following Term, get out from under that rock and make sure you do that. And then, of course, we got my man Beezy. We've been rolling since day one, buddy. I appreciate you getting back on the show, man.
Oh, dude, it's always a pleasure to jump on. Yeah, the Canadian Slayer, dude. No, dude, it is always awesome coming on with you, Trav, and finally meeting you, Ty. We've been hooked at the hip since day one, my boys. I appreciate you both. Appreciate the True North brand fam right there. You can find me at the Beezy BFF. Everything we do is at the Undroppables. Please check out Unscripted. That's the pod that me and this handsome fella to my left do with Paulie. And we're about to get back on that this week and start to drop some episodes there. We have a lot of exciting.
Well, we won't drop it.
We won't because we're undroppable. But
they're gonna undrop it.
We got some cool guests coming up for you guys this year that we're working on getting lined up. So a lot of big things, and looking forward to a fun off season.
Nice. I love that, man. Your guys' pod is fantastic. So shout out to the Unscripted Podcast and all of the Undroppables. Tommy's over there. Jax is over there. A bunch of the boys are putting out stellar stuff. And then Chalk is the man behind the scenes doing some great work as well. We always have really good conversations. Ty, I've been talking a lot. Tell the people where to find you, buddy.
Yeah, at TNFF Tyrell on Twitter. Check out the rankings. Everything's on the website, truenorthffb.com. Thanks so much, Term. Bees, really just such pleasure having you guys on finally. Well, I'm on. So, yeah, we definitely got to reconnect here leading up to the NFL draft. I'm sure we'll both be doing some live NFL draft recap kind of stuff on the YouTube channel. So we definitely gotta do some crossover action on that.
Hell yes. Let's
Absolutely. Go. Absolutely. And make sure you subscribe to the Undroppables YouTube channel as well, for sure. So with that, we're going to ride out. Thanks again, boys. And thank you to everybody who listened and checked it out. The pod will be posted tomorrow morning and the video will be on the YouTube channel. We'll see you next Wednesday, guys. Peace. Peace.